question, and I ask where your focus is. And I hopefully was able to move the needle for you and help you to see. And again, to be flat honest with you, when I stepped up here, I had zero clue really what that even meant. I had a few things, but I had no clue what I was even supposed to be talking about. So hopefully that has moved the needle for you and helped you to look and see the difference between what is temporal and what is eternal. And what really, really, really matters in life. Because sometimes we get bogged down with things that 10 years, and my mom used to say, it won't amount to a hill of beans. In 10 years, what is it gonna matter? They used to say stuff like that all the time. But we don't really say stuff like that anymore. Because everything is right now, right now, right now, right now. But when you look down the road, is it gonna matter that this person cut me off in traffic today? I'm talking to myself. Is it gonna matter that this person took the last bag of sugar in the grocery store 10 years from now? But 10 years from now, is it going to matter whether or not that you did the will of God? Will that matter 10 years from now? 10 years from now, will it matter if you if you saved up riches in heaven or if you saved up riches in the earth? Will that matter 10 years from now? Just to review, I'm asking you where your focus is. Because tonight, I'm going to ask you, what is your passion? What is your purpose in this life? It's a question people like to ask because it feels deep. And many times we're all looking for our purpose in life. And there are many people that are trying to really, some of them are really, really trying to excel. They're trying to find their passion. And people are trying to find something to run behind. And so I want to ask you tonight those couple of deep questions. What is your passion? What is your purpose in life? And what is your agenda? What do you want to accomplish? And so I want to read a passage to you. You can turn Luke 16, and we'll read. It's a few verses, 19 through 31. It's a couple. But I think that is a familiar passage, so it won't be very hard for you to follow. I'll give you guys a couple seconds to get there. And while you're turning there or flipping there or typing the buttons, for those of us who have technology in our hands, again, asking you, why did God put you on this earth? That's your purpose in life. Why did God give you the gifts He gave you? And what are you going to do with those gifts? That's your agenda. If you got to say amen, should all be there. Luke 16, 19 through 31 says, there was a certain rich man which was clothed in purple and fine linen and fared sumptuously every day. And then there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate, full of sores, and desiring to be fed the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. And it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. And in hell he lifted up his eyes, being in torments, and seeth Abraham afar off and Lazarus in his bosom. And I'm going to pause here because many times this story is used to talk about the rich people and the poor people and the evils of being rich and how blessed it is to be poor. And to be flat honest with you, I really don't think that there is a problem with having money or a certain virtue with not having money. I really don't think that that is the problem. And later on, we'll get to why this story says something different than what some use it for. But I don't. I want to put a pin in that because some people feel like that they have to. There are some people that feel like they have to come to church dressed like hobos because they feel like there's an inherent piousness in wearing the poorest thing, and you don't have to do that. And there is a balance, and we don't need to go out wearing, buying the most expensive designer clothes. I think Shakespeare had the greatest line, even though the character himself was crooked and self-serving at times, but he wanted to protect his son, so he said, buy clothes that are of good quality. Not flashy, not gaudy. Buy you stuff that is of good quality, because he says flashy, gaudy stuff goes out in and out with the styles, so you're always having to buy a new wardrobe. But if you buy good quality clothes, you don't always have to do that. Just an aside, because I think God is really trying to speak to an attitude when he's talking about this sometimes. 24, and he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. But Abraham said, Son, remember that thou in thy lifetime receivest thy good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. And besides all this, there is a great gulf fixed between us, fixed so that they which would pass from hence to you cannot, neither can they pass to us that would come from hence. We can't go over there, and you can't come over here. And that probably seems obvious to some of us. Then he said, I pray thee, therefore, Father, that thou wouldest send him to my father's house. For I have 5 brethren, that he may testify unto them, Lazarus the beggar, whose sores the dogs licked. He may testify to my brothers who are from this well-to-do family, lest they also come to this place of torment. Abraham saith unto him, They have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. And he said, Nay, Father Abraham, but if one went unto them from the dead, they will repent. And he said unto him, If they hear not Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rose from the dead. And this is a parable from Jesus' mouth. There was a lot of things, if you read the rest of verse 16, the top parts of verse 16, Jesus gets into a lot of things, and he's talking to the Pharisees, and he's explaining some stuff. And of course, he's throwing it out in stories so that people that are listening can hear. I used to wonder what they meant by that. Jesus talked in parables so that way the people that could hear, and the people that couldn't hear, they couldn't hear. And I understand now. If you're listening, you'll understand. If your mind is right, you'll understand. If your intentions are right, you'll understand, or you'll seek understanding, and you'll find it. But if you're one of those that's always looking for a fault, then you're going to fall by the wayside, and you'll just be confused. So Jesus is speaking this parable, and he says at the end, though it doesn't matter if they won't listen to the words, and at the time it was the Tanakh, the words they have, they're not going to listen to somebody that comes from the dead and tells them. Let that sink in. God said, I'm not sending people from the dead. They've already done their time. But I've already put the words for you to hear. So that if you want to be saved, this is the word. There is nothing that's going to change from what God has put in the Bible. Amen? There should have been an amen from all the Christians, even the ones sitting at home. Abraham told the rich man that nobody could pass from him to the rich man. So Lazarus and Abraham couldn't go over there, and vice versa. They couldn't come over to Abraham's bosom. And I want to ask you, could it be that when they experienced the torment and the anguish that they would want to get away so badly, that they would look up and see paradise and splendor, and that they would want to cross? We know that that's probably an obvious reason for that gulf. That makes sense to us. But the more the heavier implication that Abraham spit out first is that we can't come to you. We can't come to you. Even if we wanted to, we couldn't come to you. And could that be? Remember, Jesus is saying this way back when. Could it be that Jesus is telling, well, no, it's not could it be. Let me rephrase that. It's could it be that when they looked over from Abraham's bosom and God in his infinite wisdom knew that their hearts would be pulled on when they heard the screaming and when they heard the cries of immense, horrible pain and the despair and the hopelessness that came from knowing that you could have avoided this place, but you chose not to. The weeping and the gnashing of teeth that came from the chaos and destruction and the torture, and seeing it all, looking over and seeing it, or looking down and seeing it, wherever Abraham's bosom is, apparently they could see, at least in this parable. And could it be that God understood that somebody would look down and remember, or at least look down and hear and see and think, I've got to go rescue them. I've got to go save them. I can't just leave them there. This is inhumane to leave a being in that state of misery. Even if they called the sentence down on themselves. Even us today, we know that there are certain things that people do, and yeah, we know that they got themselves into that situation, but it hurts us to have to sit there and watch people deal with the consequences of their own actions. And so could it be that this gulf has been fixed between us so that way we couldn't, or I say us because I'm going to go ahead and put myself there. I'm trying my best to make sure that I make it and I don't go to hell. I don't want to go to hell. Could it be that when we hear this sound, or we see, if we were to see the destruction, that we need something to keep us from trying extraordinarily hard to get there? This is why, and Jesus said it in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament, in Revelation 21, 4 through 5, John said when he was looking in his vision that God gave him, and he talked about how God would be God to us in heaven, and he's looking into the future, he said that God would wipe away every tear from our eyes. Because undoubtedly, we're going to know. Remember, I'm asking you what your passion is, what your purpose in this life is, and what is your agenda. When you get out of bed in the morning, what is your agenda? But the real travesty of this verse, the meat and potatoes of what I want to meld into your entire being is the passage after this. After all that, the rich man has gotten everything that he can get. Right? I mean, Jesus told the parable about building barns, and he said, this night your soul will be required of you. Is there anything wrong with planning for the future? No, but if you're putting all your hopes and dreams in temporal things, and you are not storing up treasures in heaven, your mind is not where Christ wants it to be, your mind is not behind Christ, then there are things that are coming. And the real travesty of this entire verse is the next passage. And I want to start with you with this mindset. The rich man realizes that his fate is sealed, and whatever he did to deserve this place, he never questioned it. Did you ever notice that? He never questioned it. There wasn't an utter of an I'm innocent anywhere in this passage or anywhere else in the Bible. There wasn't a question of what did this man do. He knew he did stuff, because then he came back and said, he asked for something to take the edge off the pain. That's all he asked for. He didn't ask to have an audience. He didn't say, can you go back over and look at your records again? He just said, can you take the pain off Just take the edge off for a little bit. Just a little bit. Think about when that there are times that you've been sick or you've really done something to yourself and they give you that medication. Sometimes the pain is so bad that all it does is just take just the sharpness off of it a little bit. Just grounds it off a little bit so that you're still in pain, but it don't hurt like it used to. Maybe it feels like, they're cutting me with a dull spoon. It doesn't feel like they're stabbing me with a knife. And that's all he asked for. Just take the edge off, please. Just send somebody to take the edge off of this pain for just a little while, just so I can breathe, just for a second, so I can have just a little bit of relief. That's all he asked for. He didn't say I'm innocent. He apparently knew he wasn't innocent. His words show it. And when he found out that not only was that impossible, but that there was also no way for him to get away from it, his mind immediately turned to his family. Because apparently, whatever he did to get here, they were doing too. Because he immediately begins to beg. In verse 27, he asked Abraham, he says, I pray thee, therefore, Father, that thou wouldest send him to my father's house. I know what I did wrong. I know that I was warned. Why? Because he asked immediately, send Lazarus. Because he knows that somebody has got to be persuasive enough. He knows that he is going to whoever it was that has the truth that he heard, and now it's proven to him that whatever it was that Lazarus said to him, or whatever it was that he saw from Lazarus was right. And he wants Lazarus to go. Because now he knows. When Abraham says to him, they got Moses and the prophets. They can hear them. They can read. They can hear the spoken word, just like you did. And he says, no, that's not enough. They need somebody from the dead. They need that guy that's sitting right next to you. They need him to go tell them. Because if not, they're going to be down here with me, and this is too much for anybody to bear. Think about that. At all the times, if you see people, when they realize that there's something that's bad, they immediately start first they try to get themselves out. And when they know that they can't get themselves out, immediately they start trying to protect the ones they love. And they look around because he looked and he saw Lazarus. And so he knew Lazarus. Now, whatever in the world it was, I don't know because the Bible didn't say. Maybe Lazarus just lived it. Maybe Lazarus spoke to him about some stuff. Maybe he knew that Lazarus went to the temple when he was supposed to. Or I don't know. I have no clue what it was. But whatever it is, this rich man did not ask. He didn't even ask for forgiveness because he knew that it was over. He asked that somebody would save his family. And Abraham told him again, if they hear not Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rose from the dead. And see, we say that God is God, and God don't ever change. Jesus is giving this parable. He said it's appointed to man once to die, and after that, the judgment. All the time. You're not coming back. You going and you going. You staying. You're not coming back. So if you see one of your dead relatives, they are not back. That is not God. God has consistently said that that's it. Once you die, that's it. So he says, if they don't hear Moses and the prophets, if they don't see, or they aren't listening, or if they just cannot understand what they're being told right now, it don't matter if I send Lazarus back. It doesn't matter if I send Father Abraham back. And why is that? It's because mankind, our brains are programmed for the sensational. They're programmed for the sensational. And so so God is sitting there and he knows that if he starts letting people come back from the dead, and start talking. That's a real easy mimic for Satan. Because he already plays with death anyway. And he already uses death anyway. And he already pulls people toward death as much as he can anyway and tries to get them to be comfortable with the symbolism. And I have all these things going on all the time anyway. So then all it is I just put up, like he did with Saul, put up somebody from the dead, tell him some stuff he want to hear. All of a sudden I'm comfortable. I'm ready to go. I'm just ready. And then off you follow behind bad advice. If you aren't reading what is written in the book, if your preacher, your pastor, the people that you are talking to, if they are not giving you advice that is grounded in the scriptures, then they are going to destroy your life. I have seen it over and over again. And so I ask you, I'm gonna drop it again. Where is your passion? What is your purpose? What is your agenda? This should help you understand how important your word is, because we're supposed to be living epistles, known and read of all men. And so you, Christians, you people who God has called, you are Moses and the prophets that Jesus was talking about. You are. Whatever it was that Lazarus told him, whatever it was that Lazarus did, he knew that Lazarus knew how to keep them out of this dreadful, terrible, torturous, just unconscionable place that no one ever could have believed. And so he asked, but the answer was curt. If I have the freedom to imagine, and since I've heard this story over and over and over again, and this part has always really just captivated me, is how would you feel having to deliver this news? Think about that. Somebody's being tortured. Think about that, Declan. They are on fire, begging you to give them just a tip of water. And you have to tell them that not only that he can't come to you, and you can't come to him. I can't help. You just have to suffer. There's nothing I can do for you. And then he turns and starts begging, please, go tell my family. And Abraham's answer, I can only understand in my mind, and with my imagination, I can see Abraham. It's kind of just resolute to the fact that, listen, all the things you're asking for, they can't be done. What you want is impossible. And even if we send somebody, if I were to send this man who suffers so much to your brothers, your 5 brothers that you have at home, it would not matter. So you, not only do you have to suffer the pain, but now you know that there is absolutely nothing that you can do to stop anybody else from coming to this place with you. You just wait till the door opens and another one drops in with you. That's all you can do now on top of your torture, is just wait to see another familiar face. Maybe they won't. Maybe they won't. Maybe they got away. Or maybe, if I can imagine, it's a trap door and get thrown in there with you, and now they're beside you, and you wanted to stop it. You did. But there was nothing you could do. And so, living epistles, known and read of all men, Moses and the prophets, the New Testament, which you are, you should be the ideal, the walking embodiment of a New Testament saint. You have to tell them Because if you don't, who will? It's got to be your passion. It's got to be the purpose that drives you. You have to stand between them and hell because you're all they have. There is so much that is in this world today. I've heard people who have been injured. I come across it every single day on my news feeds. I come across it every single day on my social medias about people, preachers who talk about how when they went to heaven and they were up there and they saw this and saw that, and Jesus already told us in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, and he comes back in Revelations and says it again, says it is appointed unto man once to die. And after that, the judgment. So if you died and went to heaven, you are not coming back. Because if you did, that makes God a liar. He was very, very specific on that. And he even put it in his parables, which means it's already a given. By the time he says it, it's already an understood thing. It's appointed unto men once to die and after this judgment. And so you have to be the one to show them what truth is. You have to be the one to show them where the line is. You've got to be the one. You have to be. Because you're the only one they're going to see. There are some good people in this world. There are some good people who are pressing their way toward truth and understanding and a relationship with God. There are some great people in this world. But you that have heard the truth, you that understand the truth, you that know what God really wants, if you don't do, or if you don't show, if you don't stand, because you withered underneath the pressure, you bowed beneath the heat, I want to tell you the hell is hotter. And so this has to be your passion. This has to be your focus. Is helping people survive eternal flame. So they have the Tanakh, which for the Hebrew scholars, for the rest of us normal people, uneducated few, it's the Old Testament. They had the priest that told them, read to them, and instructed them on the ways that they were supposed to live. Remember, I've told you many, many times that the sacrifices, the priest really wasn't there to stop them from sacrificing whatever it is they want to sacrifice. You sacrifice whatever it is you want to sacrifice. That can stop the judging people today. You sacrifice whatever it is you want to sacrifice. But I'm telling you, FYI, I'm here to inform you that God's not going to like that. Now you do with that what you will. I can't help you. If you want to keep going, keep going. But if they wouldn't listen to them, if they won't listen to you, then they wouldn't listen to somebody who came back from the dead. In John 21:14, Jesus said, and I'm coming to a close, this is now the third time. So Jesus is risen from the dead. The disciples are walking along the beach, and he's cooking fish. They've had an extremely hard night. Jesus this is the third time he showed himself to them. And in verse 15, in verse 15, he says, so when they dined, Jesus saith unto Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these? And he saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. And Jesus saith unto him, feed my lambs. That's pretty simple, isn't it? Feed them. Good instructions. 16, he saith unto him the second time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? And love is a passion emotion. Love starts in the passionate parts. At least what we know of as love. But it carries through, and love will make you do things that you would not ordinarily do. Love will make you do things that other people say don't make any sense. Simon Peter said unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my sheep. It's pretty redundant. And I know Peter had to be thinking, "Did you just say that?" And the rest of the apostles, as they're eating the fish, probably going, "What is he trying to say?" And we have been with him for 3.5 years. We know that he don't just say stuff out the clear blue. And now he's repeated himself twice. Any ordinary person, once they repeat themselves twice, you start to go, what do you mean? What are you trying to say? And we know that Jesus always had a reason for what he said. So then he comes back in 17 and saith unto him a third time, "Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me?" And Peter was grieved. He was upset because he said unto him a third time, "Lovest thou me?" And he said unto him, "Lord, thou knowest all things." You already, I know you know. Because I know who you are. I know you know everything. "Thou knowest that I love thee." Jesus said unto him, "Feed my sheep." And so, substitute shepherds, stewards of the word, stewards of the laws of God, because that's what each and every one of you are. A steward. Jesus, God robed in flesh, come down and walked among us, made sure to tell the rock at which this church would be built on, "Feed my sheep. Feed my sheep." Implicit in that, you can stand, I'm done. Implicit in that, he doesn't want you to feed his sheep poison. He doesn't want you to feed his sheep old moldy food. He doesn't want you to feed his sheep sugar and cotton candy all the time, because you know it won't help them grow. Feed the sheep. That has got to be your passion. It's got to be your purpose. It's got to drive you in the morning when you get up, when you see people, when you are in prayer, because you need to be in prayer, because people don't know how to get out of stuff on their own. You've got to pray for them. He said, "Feed my sheep." And in order to feed them, you've got to go and get the right food to feed them. You can't just pick something up that you just saw and then give it to them. You've got to give them something that will nourish their soul.